Parents, why do people all over the world sing lullabies to their infant children? Why do children ask their parents to sing at bedtime? When the lights are out and the book is closed, we are snuggled in bed and the black void of darkness begins to envelop us. We need the comforting reassurance of place and time. Touch and voice ground us. Music relaxes us. We feel safe. We are lulled to sleep. Lullabies can be light and playful, or they can be dark and disturbing. Lullabies can have many layered meanings. This music form has been around as long as there have been mothers crooning their children to sleep. Lullabies are tonally simple compositions in triple meter, which is preferred by infants as it is reminiscent of the movements of the mother, which the neonate feels in the womb, a rocking motion. A lullaby can be any song, a ballad or a folk song, that is sung to a child in a reassuring, comforting tone. Lullabies will be the focus of this day's podcast. Good morning. You are listening to Coffee with Cate. This classical orchestral lullaby composition is Chopin's Opus 57 in D-flat major, or Berceuse. Instrumental lullabies have been played on a Steinway, on guitar, flute, or harp, and recorded with tinkling bells and sounds of nature. They have a niche in folk music, in classical and modern arrangements. But most lullabies are sung by a mother a cappella. The pastoral, simple lyrics of many lullabies are thought to help children in externalizing and communicating their unconscious primal fears of darkness, abandonment, death, and night. Perhaps this may be a throwback to a time when a quiet infant, soothed by its mother, was necessary to keep predators away. The higher pitch of lullabies is more easily heard by the infant, and a warm, gentle, hushed voice increases the emotions of love and contentment. Babies' eyes widen and show a range of expression when they are cooed and sung to. Lullabies that beseech God or angels to watch over a sleeping child help reassure the parent who worries about his new baby's safety as the infant sleeps.
Lullaby and good night, with roses bedyed, with lilies bedecked, is baby's wee bed. Lay thee down now and rest, may thy slumber be blessed. Lay thee down now and rest, may thy slumber be blessed. Lullaby and good night, thy mother's delight. Bright angels around, my darling shall stand. They will guard thee from harms, thou shalt wake in my arms. They will guard thee from harms. Thou shalt sleep in my arms.
If you listen to any mother talk to her infant or toddler, you'll notice that her pitch is raised and she repeats sounds in a form of a language we call baby talk. This has been thought to facilitate language acquisition in children. Men don't generally raise the pitch of their voices when talking to a baby, though there are exceptions to every rule. Men are more likely to sing the songs they learned as young adults, westerns, drinking songs and ballads, or to sway the infant to sleep, maybe while standing in front of the football game on TV.
My guest and fellow podcaster this Sunday morning is my very good friend, Perrin. We are about to have our all-important third cup of Crested Butte Camp 4 coffee. Perrin and I both have growing children. We sang them lullabies as we ourselves were sung to as children.
Cate and I grew up in relatively similar households in the United States. We have similar waspy backgrounds. We have busy lives with work, volunteering, but we both enjoy talking in the morning. For this occasion, I've driven over to Cate's in my satin pajamas and mauve fuzzy bathrobe. My neighbors think I'm crazy anyway. Cate is in her pink striped pajamas and pink chenille robe, hair and teeth brushed, lipstick on. That would definitely please our mothers. We relax, feeling soft and lazy with sleep. We're comfortable, sitting on a big, old floral love seat by the second floor study front windows, surrounded by faded chintz cushions and knitted throws. Cate's study looks more like a baby's nursery than an office, with photographs and paintings of generations of children and a special wall-length white painted set of shelves of many of the old children's books that she and I both loved.
On one wall of the room hangs a sampler I stitched during my pregnancy with my son Will 34 years ago of the old well-known lullaby, Brahms' Lullaby. You probably know at least the melody of this lullaby. You might even be sick and tired of hearing canned versions of it. I found and learned all the lyrics in 1983, as I loved to sing them when my toddler firstborn, Henry, would cuddle against my pregnant tummy. This Johannes Brahms lullaby from 1868 is titled Weggenlied, Guten Abend, Guten Nacht, Opus 49, number 4. I know it as cradle song, and like many of the lullabies here, you will find a variety of versions, but this is the one I learned. The lyrics of the first verse and chorus are taken from old German folk songs and may have been sung with different melodies in thatched cottages in forests. The second stanza, written by George Scherer, is more in keeping with the worry of all parents that their child will sleep safely all through the night. I hope that babies are still being sung to and these long song lyrics aren't all fading away, and that babies aren't spending their nap times and evenings alone, awake in a crib with some plastic toy, playing this tune at a tinny, fast-paced rate. We had a toy attached to our daughter's crib bars that would start playing this loud, rapid-paced, neurotic-sounding version of Cradle Song loudly every time she moved at night, which would wake her up. She would cry for an hour, and then we'd all be up. We'd finally get her back to sleep, and 5 minutes later, she would move, and it would start up again. My husband finally yanked it off the crib, carried it to the window, and threw it out. And it was still playing down on the lawn, a testament to Hasbro. I held my baby girl and sang this instead.
Hush a bride, don't you cry. Go to sleep, my little baby. When you wake, you shall have all the pretty little blacks and bays, dapples and grays, all the pretty little horses. Hush-a-bye, don't you cry, go to sleep, my little baby.
Perrin and I are enjoying the early Colorado morning in this cozy room. Outside, a cold wind whistles around the window frames. The trees are bare and brightly lit by the slanting rays of the late autumn sun. There is a tea table with china near the green wicker armchair. An old doll dressed in blue sits in the child's rocker nearby. My pink fuzzy slippers and Perrin's beautiful leopard flats lay where we kicked them off on the sky blue oriental rug. Even Alice the cat looks content, curled up in the armchair by the Van Briggle fireplace. We've both been learning about lullabies.
As it turns out, there's a lot of history and study of lullabies, both as a musical form and a unique, nurturing social action between parent and child. Lullabies are sung in every part of the world while rocking a baby in arms in a cradle, rocking chair, or, in Turkey's history, while swinging the baby in a blanket. There are lullabies sung in the Telugu, Tamil, Odia, Spanish languages. Lullabies are sung in Norway, the Philippines, Malaysia, Ireland and China, Germany and Vietnam. Lullabies have been sung for centuries across the globe. Even a gentle purring or humming to a newborn infant is a form of a lullaby. It has been observed that the practice in the newborn intensive care units or NICUs, that the large, firm handhold of the father on the tiny baby's back and the rumbling of his deep voice in his chest stimulates and calms a premature infant. Neonatal nurses will tell you that babies who are sung to have a therapeutic benefit from lullabies. They are stimulated to feed better, gain weight, and sleep better. They breathe deeper with increased oxygen saturations, and their neurological systems develop more rapidly. This was certainly true for my son Calvin. He was born prematurely and was in the NICU unit for 7 weeks. His older sister Anna sat and sang to him over and over and over again all kinds of songs. And you could see with her high voice and her soothing cadence that things were better. She looked at me with her big 5-year-old eyes wide open and said, "Mom, if he's going to be healthy enough to live, that will be good. Maybe he's too sick to live and then he's going to have to die. But look, if we keep singing to him, his oxygen is in the 90s, and that's really, really good." I have to say that I credit Anna with singing Calvin back to life. She sang all kinds of songs to him. She sang songs she learned in kindergarten. She sang songs she had learned from me. She sang the inappropriate songs that my parents sang to me as a child as well. And some of these caused a few looks in the hospital. What is she actually singing to him? But nevertheless, it worked. My parents spent a lot of time when I was a child going out. My earliest memories of my parents at night were my parents dressing up. My mother usually sang to me, usually hummed, sang what are really considered to be classic lullabies, like Brahms' Lullaby. My father, on the other hand, sang songs that were completely wrong. Often when my parents were getting ready to go out on the weekend, my mother somewhere mysteriously applying beautiful red lipstick and glittery jewelry, my father would come in and sing to me instead. This was definitely a change of pace. My dad, who had usually had a cocktail in advance of the party, would come sit down on the end of my bed and start singing me terrible songs about murder, songs about drinking, songs about shootings, songs about running away and being an outlaw. Nevertheless, I loved these songs. I knew, even as a child, that they were somehow wrong, not really appropriate, but they were my favorites and the ones that I remember the most, and the ones that I ended up singing to my children. Songs like Old Man River, with its lines about getting a little drunk and landing in jail, or songs like Out in the West Texas town of El Paso, with lines about feeling the bullet go deep in your chest.
Out in the West Texas town of El Paso, I fell in love with a Mexican girl. Nighttime would find me in Rosa's cantina. Music would play and Felina would whirl. Blacker than night were the eyes of Felina, wicked and evil while casting the spell. My love was deep for this Mexican maiden. I was in love, but in vain I could tell. One night a wild young cowboy came in, wild as the West Texas wind. Dashing and daring, a drink he was sharing with wicked Felina, the girl that I loved. So in anger I challenged his right for the love of this maiden. Down went his hand for the gun that he wore. My challenge was answered in less than a heartbeat. The handsome young stranger lay dead on the floor. Just for a moment I stood there in silence, shocked by the foul evil deed I had done. Many thoughts raced through my mind as I stood there. I had but one chance, and that was to run. Out through the back door of roses I ran, out where the horses were tied. I caught a good one, it looked like it could run. Up on its back and away I did ride, just as fast as I could from the West Texas town of El Paso out to the badlands of New Mexico. Back in El Paso my life would be worthless. Everything's gone in life, nothing is left. It's been so long since I've seen the young maiden. My love is stronger than fear of my death. I saddled up and away I did go, riding alone in the dark. Maybe tomorrow a bullet may find me. Tonight nothing's worse than this pain in my heart. And at last here I am on the hill overlooking El Paso. I can see Rosa's cantina below. My love is strong and it pushes me onward. Down off the hill to Felina I go.
One song that both of our fathers liked to sing was the famous cowboy ballad Streets of Laredo. It was the late 1950s, and everyone was in love with the romance of Wild West, as seen on Western shows on television and cowboy movies in the theater. I remember sitting on the carpet next to my father's chair as he smoked his Marlboros, flicking the ash into an old brass spittoon. We watched The Rifleman, Have Gun Will Travel, and Gunsmoke, and my father, the burgeoning authority on all things Western, from his reading of early cowboy history and the Louis L'Amour novels he loved, would point out the Hollywood inaccuracies of the shows. The cowboys' tight, tan stretch pants, the actors' smooth hair, their clean hats and shiny boots. Streets of Laredo is a classic Western ballad.
As I walked out on the streets of Laredo, as I walked out on Laredo one day, I spied a poor cowboy wrapped up in white linen, wrapped up in white linen, as cold as the clay. I see by your outfit that you are a cowboy. These words he did say as I boldly walked by. Come sit down beside me and hear my sad story. For I'm shot in the breast and I know I must die. 'Twas once in the saddle I used to go dashing. 'Twas once in the saddle I used to go gay. First to the card house and then down to Rosie's. But I'm shot in the breast and I'm dying today. Get 6 strong, you cowboys, to carry my coffin. Get 6 pretty maidens to bear up my pall. Throw bunches of roses all over my coffin. Roses to deaden the clods as they fall. Oh, beat the drum slowly and play the fife lowly. Play the dead march as you carry me along. Take me down to the valley and lay the sod o'er me. For I'm a young cowboy, I know I done wrong. Then go write a letter to my gray-haired mother. Tell her the son that she loved so has gone. But please not one word of the man who has killed me. Don't mention his name, and his name will pass on. When thus he had spoken, the hot sun was setting. The streets of Laredo were cold as the clay. We took the young cowboy down to the green valley, and there stands his marker we made to this day. We beat the drum slowly and played the fife lowly. Played the dead march as we carried him along. Down in the green valley we laid the sod o'er him. For he was a cowboy who knowed he'd done wrong.
I used to insist on my mother tucking my sister and me in our matching white beds at night, after we'd had our supper and our baths. Some nights she dashed in dressed up for a cocktail party, her face soft and glowing in her pancake makeup, sparkling earrings and necklace, and one of her elegant cocktail dresses. To us, she was a princess. When she was putting the baby down in his crib upstairs, my father, who had come home from work to the 2 dry martinis he enjoyed while watering his garden, would come into our room to sing us a song. He would place that newly lit glowing cigarette on the edge of the top shelf of our high wood bookcase and forget about it. In the morning, we would find it burned to a long gray ash in a deep black groove in the varnished pine. As a young bookseller who had come to Colorado from the North Shore of Chicago, having always loved stories of the West and summers spent at Chile camps in Estes Park, my father enjoyed singing in a voice as low and Western as he could muster. I can still picture this broad-shouldered young man in an ironed white shirt and dress slacks sitting at the foot of one of our twin beds as he lowered his blonde head to sing the quintessential Western ballad, Old Blue.
Well, I once had a dog, and his name was Blue. And I bet you $5 he's a good dog too. Singing, come on, Blue, you good dog, you. Now old Blue chased a possum up a china tree. Possum looked at Blue, Blue looked at me. I said, go on, Blue, I'm here with you. Now when old Blue died, well, he died so hard, made a great big dent in my backyard, singing, so long, Blue, you good dog, you. Now when I get to heaven, the first thing I'll do is to blow my horn and call for old Blue, saying, here, Blue, you good dog, you. I say, come on, Blue, I'm here with you.
When we begged for more, he would sing a song he'd probably learned in his fraternity at Wesleyan College, Johnny Verbeck. We delighted in the horror of it, the poor cats and dogs.
There was a fine old Dutchman, his name was Johnny Verbeck. He was a dealer in sausages and sauerkraut and speck. He made the finest sausages that you have ever seen, until Verbeck invented the wonderful sausage machine. Oh, Mr. Johnny Verbeck, how could you be so mean? We told you you'd be sorry for inventing that machine. Now all the neighbors' cats and dogs will never more be seen. They'll all be ground to sausages in Johnny Verbeck's machine. One night the darn thing busted, the darn thing wouldn't go. So Johnny Verbeck, he crawled inside to see what made it so. His wife, she had a nightmare, and walking in her sleep, she gave the crank a hell of a yank, and Johnny Verbeck was meat. Oh, Mr. Johnny Verbeck, how could you be so mean? We told you you'd be sorry for inventing that machine. Now all the neighbors' cats and dogs will never more be seen. They'll all be ground to sausages in Johnny Verbeck's machine.
Sing Patty Murphy, we would demand then, and if he was really enjoying himself, he would sing that too. Patty Murphy was a Chicago Irish song, another thrilling drinking song. My mother drew the line at Inky Dinky Parlez-Vous and other songs he had learned in the Korean War, much to our disappointment.
Oh, the night that Patty Murphy died I never shall forget. The Irish got so stinking drunk that some ain't sober yet. Of all the things they did that night that filled me heart with fear, they took the ice right off the corpse and put it on the beer. Oh, that's how they showed their respect for Patty Murphy. That's how they showed their honor and their pride. They said it was a sin and a shame as they winked at one another. Every drink in the place was full on the night that Patty died. Singing, hooray for Patty, Patty, hooray for Patty. Someone's in the kitchen shouting, hooray for Patty Murphy. I'm swine, dry beer, who's gonna buy the beer? Hooray for Patty, he's a damn fine guy.
My mother sang us ballads we thought were lovely, sweet, and sad, morbid and over-sentimental, but endearing. These parlor tune ballads had been sung to my mother in the early radio days of the 1930s. Her own mother had learned them in the days when sheet music was brought home for the family to sing around the piano. In Only Me, my sister and I, of course, each thought we were the neglected child, little only me.
A mother of fashion was being arrayed by her dainty French maid Babette. Her two little girls in the nursery played, but one was her darling, her pet. A sound from the room caused the mother to cry. Was that you, my dear Marie? The answer came back twixt a sob and a sigh. No, Mama, it's only me. Only me, only me, sobbed in a weary tone, wrung from an innocent baby's heart that felt so much alone. One got the kisses and kindly words, that was her pet Marie. One told her trouble to bees and birds, that one was only me. Close to a white cot on a bright summer day, the mother's heart weakened at last. The life of her baby was ebbing away. The tears of repentance fell fast. Now don't you cry, Mama dear. You needn't care, it isn't your dear Marie. And maybe the angels will have love to spare, a little for only me.
Vying for my favorite bedtime song sung by my mother was the Railroad Train song, actually titled The Eastbound Train. This ballad is sad, certainly maudlin, but we were comforted by it. The glorified heroism, compassion spoke to us. This lullaby was sung by my grandmother in 1930.
The eastbound train was crowded on a cool December day. The conductor shouted tickets in his old familiar way. When a little girl of 7, blue eyes and hair of gold, said, "I have no ticket, mister," then this little story told. She told him of her mission, of how she'd run away to go and find the governor and for a pardon pray. She said her little sisters and brother would be glad if she could only bring them back her poor blind dad. The conductor tried to answer, but he could make no reply, as with a hard, rough hand he brushed a teardrop from his eye. Softly murmured he, "God bless you, and stay right where you are, for you'll never need a ticket while you're on this car."
There were times in the last 3 or 4 generations of our families in America when many little children died from smallpox and scarlet fever epidemics before the advent of antibiotics. The Depression was a tough time in America. Accidents happened, people either survived or died, and infections were deadly. Mothers died in childbirth and abandoned their children. Fathers spent their paychecks on drink, were jailed in debtor's prison, and little children had to grow up fast. A happy childhood was often a luxury. The parlor songs about small children dying while comforting their grief-stricken mothers with visions of white angels coming to carry them off to heaven were popular. The children, always with blue eyes and golden or flaxen hair, were wise beyond their years. One little girl in the song "Always in the Way" cries to her dear dead mother that her new mother must not love her, for she says that the girl is always in the way. A dying little boy asks his mother to give toys to his playmates, but to please save his new little shoes from Santa. This seems ridiculous now, in these more cynical times, but they comforted an entire generation of grieving parents, and somehow, as well, they became lullabies.
Now think of the Khmer Rouge regime in Cambodia, or think of the Jews in Germany and Poland hiding from the Nazis behind cupboards and under floorboards during World War II. Children would be sung to, hummed to, held closely, even silenced in a loving mother's desperate determination to save her child from violent harm. Songs like Lullabies comfort the dying, they comfort the starving, they comfort the homeless, when holding and praying and singing is all there is left to do. There will always tragically continue to be circumstances when mothers and babies are in great danger and need to be protected. In times of social upheaval and war, when fleeing or hiding or walking to exhaustion during natural catastrophes and attacks by marauding invaders, mothers have been forced to do anything they could to quiet their crying infant.
And so there is a dark side to lullabies, just as there is to fairy tales, as the Brothers Grimm discovered. Bruno Bettelheim, the Australian psychologist, discusses the effect of children's literature on their psyches in his 1976 book, The Uses of Enchantment. Bettelheim proposes that all children have innate fears as well as an undeveloped sense of caution, and a story like Little Red Riding Hood, for example, must be terrifying to convince a child that there are wolves in the forest, or in modern times, that there are strangers who can harm them. So beware and stay close to home.
The Songs They Sang, an Australian production released in 2015, tells the tragic story of the Vilna ghetto in Lithuania during the Holocaust. Vilna was a cultural mecca before the war, and many of the inhabitants were renowned artists, writers, and musicians. 522 people died in that ghetto in just 1 year, 1942. The singing of their songs and lullabies, and the act of writing and playing them, gave the Jews there some respite from the terror and hopelessness that they lived with daily. By the end of the war, most of these musicians had been killed by Germans. These songs are heartbreaking to read and almost unbearable to listen to. The lullaby Quiet, Quiet, Stiller, Stiller can only be understood as despair. Quiet, quiet, let's be silent. Dead are growing here. There are no roads back, and our Father too has vanished, and with him our luck. Still, my child, don't cry, my jewel. Tears no help commands. Quiet, quiet, wells grow stronger, deep within our hearts, till the gates are there no longer, no sound must impart. Child, rejoice not, it's your smiling that is not allowed.
A harshly violent lullaby, Siambamba, is an Afrikaans lullaby. We'll hear it translated into English, of a mother so desperate to save her child from the killer that she would kill the child itself. This was sung in South Africa, perhaps to caution small children to stay close, reassure them that their mother would never let another bring harm, and she would never abandon them. The lullaby is particularly shocking because of the juxtaposition of the jaunty melody and the gruesome lyrics. If it did establish a comforting bond between the child and its mother, it did so because of the horror of their day-to-day lives.
Simbamba, mommy's baby. Simbamba, mommy's baby. Twist his neck and hit him on the head. Throw him in the ditch and he'll be dead. Simbamba, mommy's baby. Simbamba, mommy's baby. Twist his neck and hit him on the head. Throw him in the ditch and he'll be dead.
My sister and I, we had first world problems, simple anxieties. We didn't want to go to sleep. We didn't want our parents to leave us. We were afraid of the dark. Like all siblings, my sister Stephanie and I must have had some jealousy of each other. especially after our little brother was born. And so each thought we were poor, unloved, only me, and that the other was Marie. We felt smug, justifiably satisfied when the mother's heart melted at last. I really think, though, that we learned the compassion and ethics that we needed for our culture in the sad story of the brave, desperate little girl with blue eyes and hair of gold. And we remembered to comfort and encourage our own children 20 years later with these songs of tenderness and courage. Choral singing and harp music are often to be found in hospice centers as our society relearns gentler ways of assisting death. While my mother lay dying several years ago, her sister, my aunt, and I, desperate to ease her pain, sang to her. Hoping she could hear, we sat on either side of her bed and sang a few of the Methodist hymns my mother had liked in Sunday school. And then we sang the lullabies she knew, Only Me and the Eastbound Train. Song is entreaties to God's protection in times of danger, with gentleness, sentimentality, satire, or desperation. Lullabies will not fade with time if only the words are remembered and the music continues to be sung.
Sing to your child or grandchild. The song can be anything. A lullaby can be any song. And the tradition will go on. Thank you for listening to us. Join us for the next episode of Coffee with Cate
And Perrin,
when we might discuss the Vietnam War from our own perspective as children, or our early motherhood memories of walking barefoot on Legos and Barbie shoes while wearing ugly Lance flannel nightgowns. As our mothers used to say, we'll see, dear.
This podcast by Cate Boddington and Perrin Cunningham was recorded with piano music by Lauren Siborowski. Robert Warner, Will Boddington, and Willow Welter sang vocals. Editing and production is by Robert Warner. How did it go? Okay, hold on.
There is a young cowboy who lives on the range. His horse and his cattle are his only companions. He works in the saddle and he sleeps in the canyons, waiting for summer, his pastures to change. As the moon rises, he sits by his fire, thinking about women and glasses of beer. Closing his eyes as the doggies retire, he sings out a song that is low but it's clear, as if maybe someone might hear. He sings good night, you moonlight ladies, rock-a-bye, sweet baby James. Deep greens and blues are the colors I choose. Won't you let me go down in my dreams and rock-a-bye, sweet baby James.
That's lovely.